So maybe you don't need the biggest motorcycle. Maybe you prefer something more affordable, more agile, but still comfortable enough to go on touring. Then maybe the Ducati Multistrada V2 or the Triumph Tiger Sport 800. Today we will find out which one suits you better, and with that, welcome to the original. And yeah, I know. The one has a 19-inch front wheel, the other one has 17. The Ducati is more like an adventure bike. The Tiger Sport is more sport touring. I can hear the voices saying you can't compare that. But in the end, what you want is a more affordable bike, around 120 horsepower, and made for touring. So if you compare the core idea of these bikes, they are very much comparable. And with that, we're gonna jump into the engine. The Ducati comes with a 890cc engine producing 150 horsepower at 10,750 RPM and 92 Newton meters of torque at 8,250. The Triumph, on the other hand, has just under 800cc, also with 115 horsepower at the same ref range, but slightly less torque with 84 Newton meters. So they're very close. The Ducati gets about 10% more torque thanks to its 100cc displacement advantage. It's also a bit more long stroke in design, so overall they're quite similar. But of course the Ducati uses a V-twin and the Triumph, on the other hand, relies on a trademark inline triple layout. But pure numbers don't mean that much. They have to perform in the real world. And what I can say is they both have no real big red flags. So they work on twisty country roads, they work on the German Autobahn, they work for long touring, and both engines are capable enough to be too fast for you. So there's no big difference so far. Typically for a V-twin, the Multistrada responds quite aggressively right off the idle, shows a tiny dip around 4,500 RPM, then revs cleanly into the limiter. Though it definitely feels a bit weaker at the top end compared to the Triumph, while being punchier out of the corners. You shouldn't be fooled by that though. The Ducati uses a short travel throttle grip, which in my opinion feels just right, but it does make the response feel a bit, let's say cheated. The Triumph, by contrast, offers that familiar balance of smoothness and drive, but tuned for more open roads than rather the sport-like Street Triple RS, for example. It also pulls nicely from idle, not as aggressively as a Ducati, but more manageable, super linear, very calm, and incredibly easy to ride. That's thanks to Triumph's excellent ride-by-wire system and perfectly calibrated fuel maps. It's always spot on. It's not a powerhouse by any means, but it will lift the front wheel just by cracking open the throttle in the first gear. The Triumph vibrates a bit more, about 8,000 RPM, but otherwise shows no real weakness, although we'll get on that point later. The Ducati engine hides quite a lot of expensive technology though. For example, a hollow valve, a secondary scavenging pump to relieve crankcase pressure, and a heavier flywheel compared to the Streetfighter V2. That flywheel was the only thing that bothered me a little, because it caused it a bit like an overswing during gear shift. It's supposed to improve smoothness and durability, which absolutely makes sense, but occasionally it felt intrusive. Throttle response mid-range RPM was sometimes slightly delayed. It's not dramatic, but noticeable. And at least there's no more desmodynamic valve system, which simplifies maintenance a lot. Well, speaking of weaknesses, let's hear the sounds, and remember, it's Euro 5+. So which one has the better engine? Well, I can't really tell. So if you look at Germany, the northern part of Germany is pretty flat, while the southern part of Germany is quite hilly with a lot of mountains. So I would say if you would live in an area where you have a lot of mountains, like, I don't know, like 3,000 feet high mountains, then you might enjoy the Ducati a little bit more. If you have like more long distances, you might enjoy the Triumph a little bit more. Both engines work perfectly fine. They have absolutely enough power, enough torque to keep you smiling, to to going over the speed limit all the time. Both very well designed engines, and I'm really eager to see, because I'm gonna go to Cyprus in January to test the new Triumph Trident 800. I'm really curious to see how this engine performs in the Trident. Yeah, but I think it's down to the personal taste. The suspension, on the other hand, is where both bikes differ a lot. When it comes to the suspension, I actually had issues with both bikes, so this part is going to be interesting. The Ducati I tested was the S model, equipped with the Skyhook semi-active suspension, which I didn't really get along with. The Triumph I rode was a press bike that I just returned from one of the biggest tests in Europe, the so-called Alpen Masters, and apparently its brake pads were a bit glazed. We'll get on that a little bit later. And first, let's take a look at the static geometry numbers. Here you can see the biggest difference between a light adventure bike and a crossover. The Triumph has a noticeably shorter wheelbase, significantly shorter trail. It's under 100 millimeters and runs a 17-inch wheel in the front and in the back, actually. While the Ducati goes with a 19-inch front wheel for like mild off-road use, though still using a 120/70 tire. Things get more interesting when you look at the suspension, travel and brakes. The Ducati offers 170 millimeters of travel front and rear, while the Tiger comes with 150. The Ducati brakes are also a bit beefier, and the tire setup clearly shows the intended purpose. When it comes to handling, the Tiger really bothered me. At lower speeds, up around like 40 kilometers per hour, it tended to fall into turns in a very unpleasant way. And also, many German viewers mention it in the comments. It seems to be a little bit a quirk of the tires, especially since one of the test bikes weren't brand new. But I can only test the bike when it stands in front of me, and honestly, I would recommend every Tiger sport owner to try different tires. This is a touring motorcycle. It will rarely be on brand new rubber, and you don't want to change tires too often. But yeah, get rid of those Michelin Road 5. So for me, the stock tire choice isn't good at all for this bike. Other than that, both bikes turn in well and transition is easily from left to the right. The Ducati has a wider handlebar, which gives a small advantage in steering leverage, but both feel competent overall. So where did I have issues with the Ducati? Well, the 19-inch front wheel combined with the Skyhook system and the long travel means it doesn't really dive under while braking, thanks to the automatic leveling. And let's just say it's not my world. It lacks a bit of a front end feedback, although I have to admit, in my test video I tried to kept riding it like a sport bike, which is actually good. Instead you get that commanding high up feeling, very well executed. Just sometimes I just need a few more days to fully adapt to before scraping the pegs confidently. With the Triumph, I probably just should have adjusted it properly. It's fully adjustable at the front and rebound adjustable at the rear. Otherwise, the suspension worked fine. It's well damped, it's comfortable, it's pleasant to ride once you ignore the tires. But even though, you can clearly feel a difference in philosophy. The Tiger Sport is like more of a sporty compromise, while the Multistrada is more touring focused and built for high speed stability. Moving on to the brakes, there's really nothing to complain about on a Ducati. The initial bite is okay, it's not too aggressive, which is good for touring, but after that it becomes nice and powerful, and at least at the front. At the rear, though, it's a typical Ducati butter churn, soft feel, no feedback, still overall thumbs up for Ducati. And for the Triumphs, well, it's hard to say because the braking pads were glazed, but on the other hand it also does not have like the top spec master cylinder like the Speed Triple 1200, for example. So it's not like Triumph does not know what they're doing. They can deliver really awesome brakes. I would marry the brake of the Speed Triple, but I was not convinced at all by the brakes from the Tiger Sport 800. It may be due to the fact that I don't even know if it's a fact, but that the braking pads were glazed. So I see some room for improvement. For me, there's less potential for improvement when it comes to ergonomics. Both bikes are actually very accessible, comfortable, and well suited for touring. On both, you can still move around easily, so you're not locked into one riding posture. The seat height on the Ducati can be adjusted between 830 and 850 millimeters, while the Triumph is fixed at 830. So neither of them is particularly low, but for some around 1 meter and 80 centimeters is absolutely no problem. I personally felt a bit more comfortable on the Triumph, mainly because it leans a bit more towards the naked bike riding position. However, if you truly want to go touring, you might feel more at home on the Ducati. At the end, it's something you simply have to decide yourself. Whichever setup fits your personal taste better. But all in all, I would say I would prefer Ducati in the normal version, not the Skyhook S version. And for the Triumph, well, I still believe they should offer an RS version with a Öhlins TTX suspension in the rear and better brakes under like 15,000 euros in Europe, which is like, I don't know, like 3,000 euros more expensive than the version we have right now. And this would be a real killer. And of course, other tires. Yeah, but still, both bikes perform kind of well with little flaws. When it comes to the gearbox, it gets a little bit confusing. The Ducati, shown here in red, actually has longer gearing than the Triumph, yet somehow its individual gears feel shorter when you ride it. In theory, first gear should reach around 90 km per hour and second up to 130, but in practice I actually never hit those numbers, probably because the engine simply does not like to rev as high as a Triumph's. Interestingly, Ducati's already 3% shorter in first gear than its predecessor, while sixth gear is now longer, acting as a true overdrive. In the 30 km zone, third gear works best, though fourth gear also does the job, and when you drive around town, gears 4 to 5 all actually work fine, though fifth feels like the sweet spot. On the Triumph, everything feels more naturally matched. Nothing feels too short or too long, it's simply well executed. In 30 km zones, fourth gear works perfectly fine, and in inner city, you can comfortably cruise in fifth or even sixth gear. The Ducati comes with a quick-shifted 2.0 system, including an auto blipper. It shifts sportly and precisely, but with a typical Ducati mechanical feel, a bit firm or clunky. The Triumph's quick-shifter is softer, also includes a blipper, but unfortunately has a long, less sporty lever travel. Both clutches feature an anti-hopping or slipper system to prevent rear wheel chatter, and the Ducati's clutch is hydraulic, while both offer very light lever effort, easy on the hand. And there's actually no major issue here. Maybe you could argue that you want to have a 6-gear overdrive on the Triumph, but actually they're fine. So I was not as convinced on the Ducati, though my personal feelings are not represented in the graphics, so I'm kind of confused. So I would end the chapter of the gearbox, which both are fine. Well, if someone from Triumph sees my reviews about the electronics, they get kind of sweaty palms. But let's be honest, starting with the display, Ducati's unit is much nicer, it's more informative, it's easier to read. The TFT LCD hybrid screen on the Triumph, while you could justify it by saying it keeps the cost down, but honestly, Yamaha and BMW managed to do it better at a similar price point, so no, you can't blame me for pointing that out. Both bikes come equipped with a 6-axis IMU, meaning they offer lean angle sensitive rider aids. That's a good thing. On the Ducati, everything is individually adjustable, 5 riding modes, each fully customizable. You can turn wheelie control off, keep traction control on, and fine-tune everything exactly how you want it. On the Triumph, however, they have that familiar safety nanny, which makes another appearance, so you can't disable wheelie control without also turning off traction control, and you can only do that while in neutral. The riding modes also aren't as freely customizable as they are on the Ducati. I would prefer the traction control was a bit softer. It reminded me of that guy from a city of Hamburg who just gives someone a proper slap when you get too greedy on the throttle. And that's a shame, because the engine would actually make control power wheelies quite easy if the electronics would allow it. On the plus side, both bikes come with cruise control as a standard, and both bikes are easy to use via thumb operated control pad. However, when it comes to electronic systems in general, for me, Ducati is simply the best manufacturer in the industry, because they never get in your way unless you want them to. Triumph, on the other hand, they can do it too. Their Speed Triple has a brilliant executed electronic package, but sometimes it feels like they just want to annoy me on purpose. And of course, I know it's a mechanism to differentiate the portfolio from Triumph with the more expensive models. But if you decide to do that, you have to live with someone like me complaining about that. Ducati, on the other hand, is just perfect. Display, like everything, the looks, the feels, the way it interferes, the customizability. I don't know again if this is a word, but you know what I mean. It's just perfect. But ultimately, both bikes have to prove if they are good touring bikes. And we're going to have a look at this in the next chapter. So touring is what you want to do with this bike. So you might be interested in how far you can get with them, how reliable are they, how comfortable are they. And first of all, let's talk about service intervals. Both bikes have impressively long maintenance schedules, especially when it comes to the valve checks, which is great news. Both are capable of turn-by-turn navigation, both can be equipped with heated grips, and both can be fitted with luggage systems. So let's take a closer look at that. For the Triumph, the top case with mounting hardware costs about $450. If you want it in yellow, that's another $95. And the side cases in matching body color adds another $850. The top case offers 49 liters of space, the side case together 57 liters, and for a total of 106 liters of storage at roughly $1,400. Heated grips cost around €300 and the comfort seat about $200. On the Ducati, the top case costs about $700, so roughly $120 more than Triumph's. The side cases are almost €1,000, again a little bit more expensive. The Ducati top case holds 47 liters, so 2 liters less than Triumph's, and together they hold 60 liters in total. The lock cylinder, of course, is not included, but the Ducati's top case does come with a rubberized backrest for the passenger. So in total, that's 107 liters of luggage space for about €1,700. Heated grips €330, which is roughly the same ballpark. That means with all the touring essentials added, you're looking at around €14,000 for the Triumph and about 18.5 for the Ducati. Almost the price of a Dacia Duster. The fuel tank capacities are nearly identical, with an average fuel consumption of 4.7 liters for the Triumph and 5.5 on the Ducati. Gives you a theoretical range of 390 on the Triumph and 340 kilometers on the Ducati. And in reality though, it's more like 320 for the Triumph and around 280 for the Ducati before you get out of fuel. Also, Triumph definitely uses an X-ring chain. I think Ducati does too, but I'm not 100% sure. As for wind protection, both are pretty good. Both bikes have adjustable windscreens and you can easily adjust them with one hand. On the Triumph, someone had apparently broken that mechanism before my test, but normally it works fine, I guess. Both screens protect your chest and most of your shoulders. At the highest setting, the airflow edge hits right on your helmet, but I guess that's just how it is. When it comes to comfort, I would give a slight edge to the Ducati, but high-speed highway riding was actually more enjoyable on the Triumph. It's stable, it's comfortable, and it's easy to keep at high speeds for a long stretch. The USB charging port is standard on the Ducati, while Triumph charges €35. In terms of the overall functionality, the Ducati can handle gravel or light dirt roads thanks to the 19-inch front wheel and Pirelli trail tires. But it's not really meant for serious off-road riding. The Tiger Sport, meanwhile, isn't designed for off-road at all, but considering we've taken Triumph naked bikes down light gravel slopes before, it should handle that kind of terrain just fine. Conclusion: which bike would I buy? Well, it's very hard to tell. The Multistrada feels like a big bike. You know, I own a Honda Africa Twin, the 1100, and the Multistrada also feels like as big as my Africa Twin, while the Tiger Sport feels quite small. If you sit on it, it just disappears, so it feels more like a naked bike. I know it's like a first draw of this bike, and it's pretty good. It's not perfect. If I had to choose, I think I would go with the Triumph because it's more sporty, it's more like a naked bike feeling. But if you really maybe think of going off-road, Ducati could make more sense. The engine, I don't know, it's really hard to tell. I love the inline 3 of the Triumph, and I'm really looking forward, as I said, to the Trident 800, and maybe I'm gonna sell my Ducati for the Trident 800. Because I really like the engine. So, you know, if an engine doesn't power wheel in first gear, it's broken. So both bikes do that. And Ducati is just a little bit more rumbly. The Triumph is a little bit more refined. Both bikes are actually great choices if you don't want to spend 30k on a BMW GS, which breaks down every 2,000 miles. So yeah, I think this comparison makes kind of sense if you're interested in this kind of bike, like 120 horsepower and a little bit of touring. This would absolutely make sense to compare those bikes. I hope someone, I hope I helped someone with this video, with the comparison. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.